Self-esteem ain't self-taught. It's actually a group project. And let's talk about how Tyra, the Jays, Nigel, all of them failed in being a good community member to those girls on ANTM. But first, the intro. And welcome back to another episode of the Daily Donna with me, your hostess with the mostest, Dr. Donna. I am a sex and relationship therapist in the Washington, D.C. metro area. And before you move away thinking, what does this woman even know about self-esteem? Baby, I wrote the book. Okay, a book, not the book. But the book that I wrote is Drink Water and Mind Your Business, a Black woman's guide to unlearning the BS and healing self-esteem. When it comes right down to it, a lot of us think that self-esteem is a solo project. It's not. It's a group project, which means that sometimes we need to do the work to take a step back and understand who exactly is on the team. Not only is it your mama, your daddy, your cousins, your sisters, your aunties, and all of them. We're not just talking about the family. We're also talking about the friends, the lovers or boyfriends, girlfriends, the babies, whoever. We're talking about them too. And if you were a model on ANTM, on America's Next Top Model, then not only was it your fellow contestants who you already were going to take with a grain of salt, because how can I trust you when you're going for my prize? But you have your main people who are maybe you erroneously thought was on your team, if only because agendas are present. So let's go ahead and name off these team members, shall we? We have Miss J, your skill teacher, learn how to walk, who would, quit the cup, but would also build you back up and be like, oh, okay, I see you with that broken down baby doll. I'm like, yes. Then you had Mr. J, the photo teacher, or rather the photo director. Like, give me more. Let me push you to give your best picture. That man. And you had Nigel, your photo critic, the one that would help look through all of these photos and select your best, or so they thought. And finally, you've got the Tyra Banks, the inspiration, the aspiration, the one that you're looking for, the one that you're trying to be like, who's going to tell you to go from hoe to couture. We are talking about this team, and with a show that had the premise of creating space for people to learn more about the industry, to teach them how to walk, how to move, how to be and meet the industry exactly where it was, and to push the edges of that industry open more and more and more so that it could allow more room for people that looked like Tyra, who was, quite frankly, denigrated during her time. I was talking to a friend earlier, and I'm just like, there's a difference between a chocolate chip cookie and a chocolate cookie. And Tyra did come at a time where it was chocolate chips, not a chocolate cookie. The difference is you have a few pieces of chocolate in a cookie, and you don't want too many lest they overpower the cookie. And that is how they thought of Black people or people of color, no, really Black people, in the modeling industry at that time. So while I know that everybody's been a little bit upset because it's like, come on, girl, really? Them's was the times? Them's the breaks, kid. It's true. Some of it is about the time. The context of time does matter here. Knowing that we were during Pimp My Ride type phase, it's important to know that it was the aesthetic, as someone said, the wild, wild west of reality TV at that time. I have no idea whether or not, the Wild Wild West has ever ended, but that's neither here nor there. We're moving forward. So the point is this: you have to know who's on your team. But the other piece about knowing who's on your team for self-esteem is that you also have to understand what their agenda is. Because self-esteem and what looks like self-esteem to others happens really in three parts: self-concept, which informs your self-esteem, which informs what you do. So self-concept is what you know about yourself. Self-esteem is how you feel about what you know. And self-concept, or the aligned behavior that comes out of it, is what you do with those two locked, loaded, and ready to go. The problem is when you don't recognize that someone on your team have an alternative agenda, you don't necessarily learn yourself. You learn who you are expected to be from them. You learn what they say is wrong with you from them. You learn how to change pieces of yourself for them. That sounds like some of y'all relationship. Picking away at yourself, changing up little things here and there because they said that they don't like your hair or your size or your clothes or whatever, and you're changing little pieces about yourself in order to satisfy them. Sounds like you did the same thing that these girls did on ANTM, but you did it in your relationship. That's a conversation for another day. With love. With love. So where it comes down to it, I wanted to make sure that we talked about the self-esteem of it all, because I think that they thought they were building people up. I think that by giving somebody new hair, by putting them in some makeup, giving them some cloths, that they thought that they were building it up. But what we also saw is the way that they would break some of them down. It was almost as though someone who they felt had too much audacity in liking who they were, that they wanted to offer them a slice of humble pie. I think that Ebony, for example, came in liking on herself, loving on herself, all of that, and was ready to show it, despite the fact that, she said that she'd grown up with hearing ugly people talking to her like she was ugly and calling her ugly as though it was her nickname, right? And all the information that she gave them about herself, all that she gave of herself to them, then becomes fodder for them to use within the context of this show in casting her as aggressive, as casting her character as being ugly, which sort of reminds me of the book Belly of the Beast by Deshawn. Deshawn talks about capital P pretty and capital U ugly, and how Ebony would have been considered a capital U ugly, and thus already cast in this idea of being the villain, right? This is part of like the horn and halo effect, where it comes to usually colorism, but not just colorism. Also where it comes to colorism, texturism, featureism, and what is decided as being beautiful in specific spaces, which almost always has an undercurrent of the white supremacist delusion. The halo is light skin with the light eyes, with the slender form, who is docile in nature, maybe a little bit more quiet, an unassuming beauty, right? This person would almost always be cast as the halo. Whereas someone who is dark skinned, with kinkier hair, with darker eyes and more Afrocentric features, is going to be cast as this person's opposite, to be the horn, to be the devilish one, to be the one that is not one who has earned any sympathy or empathy for anybody else, right? So I personally feel like there was some colorism and texturism playing out within this, and maybe even some of Tyra's own hurt playing into the story overall. I mean, part of the reason for starting the show was, well, what am I going to do? Because I can't be in the industry that I love in the way that I want to, because they say that my body is not right for it, right? Because the boobs came in and the butt came in. It's in the, and some of the anger piece is in the, you have a magazine, but I have a TV show, right? It's being able to feeling that need for one-upmanship, which I don't blame nobody for. Sometimes you want to show people exactly who it is that you are. And yet, put this Black woman in a position with top stylists who didn't know anything about Black hair. And as an aside, the idea that anybody could be called a top stylist or a top makeup artist and have no clue how to do anything with Black people's skin or hair is quite the feat to me, because how have you become a top anything when you don't know how to do anything with an entire swath of the population? You mean you are the top white stylist? It's like, please, let's call it a spade. Beyond that, the self-concept piece, right? Like they ask them about pieces of themselves, right? They learned what there was to learn. But again, when you have people who are learning for their own ends, for their own means, but you don't necessarily have an idea of exactly what those ends and what those means are, it can open the door to more exploitation. Because I mean, let's just talk about it for real. Like, let's give a more salient example. Takara was plus size when she walked in. She didn't become plus size when she got there. She came in the door plus size. What purpose did it serve to make sure that she didn't have clothing in her size? Whitney alluded to the same thing, right? But then it's you need to stop complaining. You're just lucky to be here. You should be grateful for what we give you. Sounds like some of y'all relationships again. I'm sorry. I'm coming out. I'm coming out. But this idea that you should be grateful that we even see anything in you sounds like an abusive lover. Sounds like a romantic relationship gone sour. Sounds like something to leave, except that we're talking about a crucial time in their lives as well. I told you that space between adolescence and adulthood, right? They're in a space between identity and role confusion where you're trying to figure out who you are, but your identity can be confused by the people around you who are wanting and extracting other things, which takes on a whole different level when we're talking about Black and brown people specifically, because they're also dealing with the isms of the world, the racism, the sexism, etc. Like add in these isms and it becomes another sort of fight and trying to figure out where you are within all of it. And then also the space between intimacy and isolation. So intimacy, you see, is kind of like the culture of a relationship. That's how we think of it. A lot of sex educators as well as therapists, we think of intimacy as into me, you see. A way to gauge what the culture is of a relationship. And the thing is, they all felt like they had maybe a little bit more power. They were cared for a little bit more than they actually were. They thought there was intimacy there, which means they're more easily, in some ways, led astray. And they're young and impressionable. When power is present, we all tend to bow to that power. And we're talking about the power of fame, the power of money, and the power to decide who gets to stay and who gets sent home with no prize, with no contract, with no modeling career. When it's your dream, you tend to acquiesce. We tend to give in, which doesn't mean that they consented. It means that in some cases they simply relented, right? So, like, not having clothes, what was the purpose of that? Well, now I have a warped view of who I am because it's who I am in this space. Like, I knew myself to be pretty and bubbly and well dressed, et cetera, but you don't have anything for me. And when I complain that you don't have anything for me, you tell me that I need to just be grateful that I'm here at all. And when you hurt me, I'm supposed to get over it. I'm supposed to still maintain this happy, bubbly air while you continually dehumanize me. They want you to put on a performance, to be tap dancing and smiling and moving jovially while they continue to strip you of the things that sort of make you who you are and help you feel anchored into yourself. And some people have said that it's like hazing, a stripping down in order to build up. But that type of stripping down is not healthy. And as far as I know, they have psychological assist on set, which means that it's also dangerous. Stripping away what someone feels like they know about themselves with no help, with no assistance, with no guide, with no walkthrough. How exactly did they think that this was going to go for somebody's self-esteem and their ability to continue to act in an aligned way to what it is that they felt originally for themselves? Any one of those girls who came in with a strong sense of self often got some pushback on them, particularly, like, I'm thinking about Yaya and not wanting to pick the kente hat, I think it was, right? And how they not only did they think that she would and that she should in some way, but also just sort of the coming down on her, like, how dare you think you're so smart, right? Like, you think you're so smart, right? It's kind of like, well, what is that? And I end up sitting in the juxtaposition of ATM's ANTM success versus who actually paid the emotional cost of having been there. They paid in their self-esteem. They paid in their self-concept, because you have to learn who you are anew. And they are throwing a story out there for other people to see that may not feel relevant to who you know yourself to be. So in the end, it hurts even more. It's even more of a, like, what is going on here, right? The use of people's trauma, their pain, and then saying that, and then, like, it's almost like a get over it air. And I kind of want to use Joni, I'm maybe making up names again, as an example, because I know that some people are like, well, this thing happened in the past, it's no big deal, they could have built their self-esteem again. Yes, and she had all of her teeth whittled down so that they could do veneers in one day, a process that apparently is supposed to take multiple days. It's supposed to be over time. And she was in pain while she was there for the rest of her time there. And that pain persists today. And yet, despite the fact that the pain persists today, for the emotional pain that these girls went through, we would say get over it. That it's 20 years ago, it's 25 years ago, it's not that big a deal. She still has problems with her bite. And we're just talking about the physical impact. We're not talking about the mental, emotional impact that all of these girls endured while they were there. That is not to say that some of them didn't get by, do well. The point is that when you are still learning who you are and you're learning to like who you are, being in a space where a bunch of people have an agenda that you think is going to be uplifting and moving you toward your dream, and they don't, sometimes can feel like a double blow, especially if you felt like with Tyra there, that you would be better protected, better seen, and better cared for. They saw her not only as inspiration and aspiration, but they saw her as a protector, someone who was in that industry, who wants what's best for them and was going to be there and protect them and make sure that it wasn't repeated. And unfortunately, they just repeated the same stuff in the space. No real apology, a lack of understanding or an implementation of anybody's type of consent, and a slow stripping away of their self-esteem. Tiffany said, yo, this is humiliating, right? And I like to, you know how I like a OD moment, an operationally defining moment. So I want to talk about, I'm going to give you the exact definition of humiliate. Make someone feel ashamed and foolish by injuring their dignity and self-respect, especially publicly. There's no more public stage than being on somebody's extra popular TV show. Injuring someone's dignity, making them feel ashamed. And shame, right? Shame is that piece of something is wrong with me. And when people believe that something is wrong with me, right? If they think something is wrong with me, this impacts how they feel about themselves. Because if something is wrong with them, they feel the need to hide. When you feel the need to hide, you feel the need to distance. And when you distance, not only are you disconnected, you're lonely. Alone is a physical thing. Lonely is a mental thing. Feeling apart from everybody else, feeling like they could never, feeling like you can't even tell your story because people are so enamored by what they think they saw. People believe that they know the truth. And we just got a little bit. And some of y'all still are very dismissive of the people who were hurt. And I get it. Part of us, we want to keep the nostalgia of our good memories for this show. We want to make sure that we're maintaining our stuff. And I'm saying that there is room for both, to remember what was at the time that it was, and also to critique what is now. What was, to color it anew, and to figure out what we as individuals can do, not just for ourselves, right? But also in how we give our attention. So they all had an agenda. They all wanted to keep their jobs. They needed the team, the dream team, Miss J, Mr. J, Tyra, Nigel. They were all trying to keep their jobs. They were all trying to put on the best TV possible with their rotating castmates. That would be the girls. They knew that they were in there like swimwear, and they didn't want to give that up for anything. Those type of things come with money. And even though the girls may not have received money, Certainly, they received an opportunity of a lifetime. And my final thoughts are this. One, it wasn't all Tyra. There are a bunch of people who are behind the scenes. She just happened to be the executive producing face on the show. Number two, capitalism creates consumption by any means, including by having people wear their traumas out in front of everybody without their consent in a way that makes for good consumptive TV. And number three, I hope that you've used this 3-part series, this one, not that one on Netflix, for your learning to, number one, take accountability and apologize when you know you need to know the difference between consenting and relenting, and to know that self-esteem is village built, but can also be village destroyed. So be careful who you allow in. So until tomorrow, I am Dr. Donna Oriolo. This is the Daily Donna, where we have conversations with a therapeutic edge. All right, y'all, let me know how you're feeling about everything that has been said here today, but also any final thoughts or anything new that you're finding out about the Netflix docuseries. And I will see you tomorrow. Bye.